Hello and welcome back to Culinary Haven. Today we're making Cruffins, which is a hybrid between a croissant and a muffin. They were all the buzz a few years back and maybe we're a little bit late to the party, but we're making them anyway. Why? Because they're absolutely delicious. They're stunning to look at. They're crispy on the outside and soft and fluffy inside, and we're going to make them right now. Let's begin. To make our cruffins, we'll need 100 ml of milk. I'm using whole milk. 1 teaspoon of sugar plus 100 grams of sugar. 2 teaspoons of yeast. 100 grams of butter, softened. 2 medium-sized eggs. Half a teaspoon of salt. 400 grams in total of plain flour, divided into 350 and 50 grams. 120 grams of mixed dried fruit of your choice. 80 grams of butter divided into 8 equal pieces, softened, because we're going to make 8 cruffins. And 2 teaspoons of vanilla. To make the cruffins, you will need either a muffin tin or individual muffin cases. That's what I'm going to use. And we'll start with preparing a starter. The reason we need that, usually I don't bother with starter, I just make the dough. This is a very rich dough and it needs all the boost we can give it. We'll make the starter and let it stand for about 10 minutes until it fulls. So it's 100 grams of warm milk, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of yeast, and 50 grams of plain flour. So we're going to whisk this mixture a little bit. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be smooth or anything like that. Whisk it, you will get this kind of mixture, and let it sit on the counter for about 10-15 minutes until it gets all foamy. It's been about 15 minutes and the starter is now ready. You can see that it's thick and foamy and almost a porridge-like consistency, which means it's ready. We are ready to make the dough. So we'll start with sifting, as always, the flour, half a teaspoon of salt and 100 grams of sugar into a large bowl. Distributing salt and sugar evenly and also eliminating the impurities. Next, we're going to add the butter, softened butter. Just make sure that it's very soft, otherwise it will be very difficult to knead the dough. Then we're adding our starter, 2 medium-sized eggs, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm going to use my own vanilla, which I made infused myself. If you don't have that, you can use a shop bought vanilla extract or a sachet of vanilla sugar. 2 teaspoons of vanilla, pure vanilla extract. And now we'll just mix the dough. You can do it in a food processor, you can do it in a stand mixer. I prefer doing it by hand. Just mixing it all together, combining all the ingredients and eventually creating a soft and pliable dough. When the dough is ready, only then we're going to add the dry fruit. And the remaining 80 grams of butter we're leaving for when we're going to shape the cruffins. At this point, I'm going to transfer the dough onto the worktop and finish the kneading there. Right, the usual carry on. Push it back and forth until it becomes not a shaggy dough, but a nice, soft, elastic dough. Use a dough scraper to help with the kneading process, but it's really not difficult at all. You will be amazed at how simple such a complex pastry is turned out to be in the making. Really, the texture of the pastry when it's baked and the flavor are extraordinary, and I'm not exaggerating. And to achieve something like this by just gently mixing the dough is, I think it's amazing. Now, as the dough has become homogeneous and has progressed in its development as a dough, I'm going to add a tiny bit of flour to the surface to finish the kneading. Just literally specks of flour, which will not change anything other than help us to make the perfect dough. So you can see already the difference between how this dough was when we started mixing it and how it is now. It's lovely, soft. It's not sticking to my hands anymore. We're getting there. So with the palm of your hand, you push it away, and with the other hand, you pull it back. That's how you do it. Push and pull back. Okay. So, the dough is so pleasant. It's so lovely to work with. You will see when you try them. You will see what I mean. Really, really, really lovely. Anyway, I just had a moment there. I love, as you have probably noticed, I love baking. It's such a lovely thing to do. It's another technique with one hand doing this and turning the dough around. I'm happy with that. That will do. And now we're going to incorporate the dried fruit into the dough. So spread it on the lightly floured surface, spread it, and add the dried fruit. I'm using 40 grams of each: cranberry, apricots, and all kinds of raisins. It's up to you, anything you like. And then we'll just... Now we're going to dust the dough with a little bit of flour and pop it back into the bowl. Cover it with cling film and leave it in a warm place to rise for 2 hours. So it's been just over 2 hours and the dough has risen very nicely. You can see it's doubled in volume. What I would like to say is, if your dough hasn't doubled in volume or anywhere near it, I would advise you to give it a little bit more time, maybe 2.5 hours, thereabouts. It's just, it needs a lot of time to develop it because it's a very rich yeast dough. We'll deflate the dough and divide it into 8 equal pieces. So just divide this dough into 8 equal pieces. And we're shaping each of them 8 pieces into tight little balls just to help us. It will be easier to roll it out. Put them like this and leave them for 10 minutes just to relax a little bit, so it will be easier for us to roll it out into a very thin piece of dough. So it's only been 10 minutes and they've relaxed and puffed up again somewhat. Now we're going to shape them. This is the time when we finally going to use the 80 grams of butter that we prepared earlier. We're going to roll out this piece of dough into a thin rectangle. As thinly as you can, you roll it out. As thinly as you can. And now I'm going to take a piece of that butter, and that's where the croissant part is played, because we're laminating the dough with butter. So spread it with a spatula or a knife if you don't have a spatula. And now we're going to roll it up into a tight rope. Okay, just keep going. Nice and easy. I'm going to flour the surface now because I want to roll it out a little bit, make it a little bit longer, and rolling it in flour will make it very easy. That said, using a pizza wheel or a sharp knife if you don't have one, just almost from the top, but not cutting it through to the very end, divide this rope of dough in half. Okay, and now we're going to shape it, starting from this side. Roll it up into a swirl inwards, like so, and then the second half is going on top and on top, and just position it like so. There, this is the shape of our cruffin. Now I'm just going to transfer it into the prepared muffin cups. Now I'm going to try to roll it out using a little bit of flour. See how that affects it, and if at all. Yeah, I think a little bit of flour makes it easier to roll it out and not to tear it. But if it is tearing and creating holes because of all the fruit, don't worry about that. You know we're going to roll it up, so it will be all good. And I'm going to put the tray inside a large plastic bag so they don't dry out, and it will create the most optimal temperature for them. The kitchen is very warm and all it needs, all we need now is some time to rise. So I'm going to give them 45 minutes before we bake them. It's been 45 minutes and the cruffins puffed up significantly, as you can see. So now we're going to put it in the preheated to 170 degrees Celsius oven for 30 to 35 minutes until it's very well puffed up and deep golden brown. So here we are. Look at them. Aren't they just absolutely spectacular? Look at all those swirls and layers of buttery, amazing, super delicious pastry. The last thing to do is to dust them with icing sugar. So that's them cooled down a little bit, and I just want to unwrap one of them to show you how lovely and fluffy they are inside. I'm just taking this wrapping off. As you can see, it's not a problem at all. Nothing is sticking. Yeah. I want you to see how beautiful it is. Just look at that. It's just super flaky and super buttery and fluffy. Look, if that's not fluffy, I don't know what is. Thank you for watching this episode of Culinary Haven. Please like, comment and subscribe. And until next time, bye.